what you must appreciate, Vinil,
Yeah.
if you know the name Anwar Atoll, and you must have eaten the Anwar Atoll,
Yes.
and you do know that the Anwar Atoll is a far superior mango than the Alfonso. The Alfonso is nice.
Okay, you are
It
my
comes-
guest. You are my guest. I agree to it. Yeah. Okay.
I remember my father telling us stories when we were growing up that during the colonial occupation, that's what I can call it, is that my father had to change his name from Muhammad Mustaqim to Kartar Singh.
What?
Yeah, my dad had to change his name. Even well before the days of naan bread, even I was a dishwasher. Nowadays you call them kitchen
Wow.
technicians.
Wow.
And even before I was a dishwasher, I was a paper boy. I'm
Okay.
not going to work in a restaurant and let my
Okay.
life pass like this. And I went back on to further education to study business studies. I asked my course tutor what else I can do. He said, well, there's some spaces available in accountancy. And you asked me, what can I say to the young generation, the next generation, of what and how should they do? And I think, and I say this, that collect as much knowledge as you can,
Yes.
but don't just collect the knowledge, execute that knowledge.
Exactly. Welcome to the show, Mr. Javed. I would like my audience to know who Mr. Javed is. Basically, he's a son of an immigrant, second generation. His father used to be a bus driver long time ago,
1965.
1965, yeah. And he's worked hard bringing up his kids. But usually you see that second generations do not carry on the legacy of their first generation. But I would like my audience to know that Mr. Javed has worked hard from going on to be a waiter, serving naan bread in restaurants, to being a multimillionaire. He is a well-known Pakistani second-generation person. He's an entrepreneur. He does a lot of charity work, and right now he owns a Rolls Royce. From being a waiter, he owns a Rolls Royce, and he not just Rolls Royce, several cars. But he's one person who inspires lots of immigrants to be entrepreneur. So, welcome to the Rollover Show, Mr. Khaled Javid.
Thank you, Vinil. Thank you so much for having me on your show today. And yes, I think when you mention, the humble beginnings of all our parents who came from the subcontinent, like my father, way back in the early 60s, he actually arrived in Manchester at the beginning to work in the Lancashire mills. And at that time, there used to be a well-known Urdu digest, and in that, the digest was called Mashrik, and in there said, bus drivers wanted in Glasgow. And I think my father read that. He already had a driving license.
Okay.
So he came to Glasgow, and it was a central SMT in those days. We called them the red buses.
Okay.
They were painted red. They were the buses that went outside Glasgow, like Balloch, Alexandria, etc. So my dad sat those tests, passed that, and
But were you born in UK or?
No. I was born in Karachi in Pakistan.
Okay.
My dad was born in Punjab in India.
Okay.
And after 1947, the migration, my dad came over to Pakistan.
So you might have relatives in India.
Oh, definitely.
Do you have connections with them?
Very little, because when we were growing up here in the West, we had little reason to go back to India or anything. But my dad tells me that there was a lot of family members who decided to stay there. And had we had the opportunity, like myself, many had the opportunity to go back and walk in the streets where the people stayed, I'm sure we would have found a lot more relatives.
Do you have any contact with any of the relatives who are still in India?
Not at all, not at all. And the reason for that is that had the administration at the time, and when I say administration, I mean the administration of the newly called Pakistan and the newly called India, had they had some kind of records of who went where and how, perhaps that could have been availed.
Okay.
You appreciate that in those times there was no marriage records, no birth records, no transition of people. There was
And
hardly any
no
records.
telephone, no internet, no WhatsApp.
Nothing at all. Nothing.
Exactly.
And I suppose at that time, any little records that they did have would have been on paper format.
Yeah.
And now, alas, puff, since 1947 to now, perhaps those papers don't exist anymore either.
Would you like to go back to India?
Definitely. I would love to. I would love to. I would love to see where my grandfather was, where he grew up, and at the same time, it would have been nice for my grandfather to see where I've arrived. But we can only hope for the best. But I think, such as your show that reveals this kind of I can only call it a tragedy, that you're leaving. It's like leaving your home and going away to a foreign country altogether, trying to get used to the new things and everything. But you still miss home. In a big way, not a small way, in a big way.
I'm sure your some of your relatives are still in India, in the Punjab sector.
Oh yeah, I presume there are. I mean, I remember my father telling us stories when we were growing up that during the colonial occupation, that's what I can call it, is that my father had to change his name from Muhammad Mustaqim to Kartar Singh.
What?
Yeah, my dad had to change his name. Because
seriously?
Yes. My mother, whose name was Khatija Begum, she had to change her name to Kalochan Kaur.
Wow.
But these are elements of history that are maybe locked up in some volumes of books somewhere. But apparently at that time, because of the fighting and everything that was going on, because of this independence and everything, the Indians, and I call them Indians globally, and I don't mean Hindus or Sikhs in any way. I just say Indians.
Okay.
My father was an Indian because he was staying in India.
Okay.
So they started fighting people who were not the same religion. The Hindus would fight the Sikhs would fight the Hindus and the Muslims.
Okay.
And to get away from this, the neighbors suggested that not to identify yourself as a Muslim, you change your name. Hence all our family changed their names and everything.
Wow.
But maybe this is a part of history. Something new to you.
There's a lot of myth in India, and there's a lot of myth in Pakistan, and misinformation that there are very little Muslim left in India, but actually there are more Muslims in India than Pakistan. And I was recently reading an article that Indians have been, having hard time in Pakistan, but this is in India, right? This information is in India, saying that Hindus in Pakistan have been penalized and lots of problems. But after reading this article, I came to know that there are more Hindus than Sikhs in Pakistan, and they are very well-to-do community, very well-educated, very powerful people, and this is all a myth which is being spread.
I suppose, Vinil, in a somewhat way,
and that is because of media misconception.
Yes, I'm just going to say that.
That's why the rollover podcast.
Yeah. So the rollover podcast, brief me a little. Why the rollover?
There is two angles to this. Podcast is, I explained you yesterday, podcast is something which is giving pure knowledge, not edited by media, right? So me and you having this conversation is not being edited by any government organization or any political organization. So it's pure conversation and it's pure knowledge. Just like you told me about how your dad had to change his name. And the same happened in the reverse way. Yeah. So this is a pure conversation and no media will tell you that. So podcast is basically to give right information, unedited, And the reason for rollover is podcast is only watched by teenagers and CEOs. Middle 30s, 40s people don't watch podcasts.
Okay.
So it's only watched by either young generation or CEOs. And CEOs have stress problem. They have hard time sleeping. I know lots of CEOs who listen to podcasts and roll over while listening to the podcast
And they go to sleep.
and go to sleep. So that's why they roll over. So
Interesting.
that's the angle of rollover. The other thing is any company in the world which starts with ROL is multi-billion company like Rolls-Royce, Rolex. You wearing one.
Okay. Noted.
Rolex. You know the pen. There was one pen. I can't.
Rollerball. There's a pen called
Rollerball. So
as
it's
well,
anything with ROL
Yeah.
is a multi-billion company. That's a numerology angle.
Okay.
So that's the idea behind
Interesting.
it. But but the pure idea is to give the right information to people rather than edited information. I mean, do you even watch news on TV channels anymore?
Occasionally, just to know. I mean, in my office, the news plays all the time, but it's occasionally to know what's going on, whether it's edited or not edited. It lets you make up your mind of what is reality, is not what's not. And I think by listening to no news at all, if you listen to something, it lets you decide. It's like reading a book. You know, it lets you decide of what you think is happening there or what's being reported. If you don't watch the news at all or don't watch any podcast at all, then you really don't know what's happening, you know. And at times, when you say that some people, you know, listen to a podcast and they roll over and go to sleep, I can assure you, it doesn't happen to me. I actually, when I listen to a podcast or something, it's very interesting. And I can't wait to get to the next episode. And I'm sure the audience hearing us talk today, they can't wait to see the next podcast of Rollover.
Yeah. That's
right. I think that's what we're working. So it gives the people an open mind.
Okay. So tell me what the whole idea to call you as a guest is to inspire young teenagers, Indian, Pakistanis, Bangladeshis, to do as well as you. So what inspired you from going on from serving naan bread in a restaurant to being a successful entrepreneur?
Okay, it's long story, but I'll try and summarize it as quick as possible. You know, even well before the days of naan bread, even I was a dishwasher. Nowadays you call them kitchen technicians.
Wow.
And even before I was a dishwasher, I was a paper boy. Growing up in Glasgow, when you wanted to get a job, a part-time job, to raise some pocket money, everybody had what was called a paper round. So you delivered newspapers, you sold newspapers. And incidentally, I was listening to a podcast this morning.
Wow.
The chap who invented the Rolls-Royce, his first job was selling newspapers as well. So I presume in a certain way, when you're selling newspapers, that's your very first...
Can you repeat what you just said about the guy about Rolls-Royce?
Well, his first job, was selling the newspapers.
And what was your first job?
Selling newspapers as well. And I only got to find out this morning.
I have to tell my daughter to sell newspapers.
I believe in those days to earn a little bit extra pocket money, and people had what was called the newspaper round, and there are a lot of areas where they still have this, but the advent of mobile phones and everything, news is available constantly 24/7, updated, where a newspaper was yesterday's news you read. But I think those were the humble days, you know, going around selling newspapers, trying to do well. And I suppose it wasn't a get-rich scheme by any means, but it was just to have some extra pocket money, because you're like all parents. They're all working away. And in those days, we're going back to about 1965, Vinil here. And I remember my father telling me, my late father, he said he used to earn £8. £8 a week. That's with overtime and everything. So imagine in the early days...
£8
£8. So in the early days, my father would, and like many fathers who came from the subcontinent, they would earn £8. Out of that £8, £5 went where? he went back home to feed the family back home. So you more or less had to survive on £3 a week, which you can entertain, eat, whatever. And that's why probably there was always an advent to find a newspaper job or something part-time, doing something like that.
How much was your salary when you started?
Right. Salary is something you receive on a monthly basis.
Okay.
This was cash. This was
Okay.
more like wages.
Okay.
So
on an average,
I would say a week, maybe £4 a week.
wow.
At that time, £3 was a lot of money. You could have what was called in Scotland. It was half of a pound, which was known as 10 shillings. It was also known as 50 bob. And if you had 50 bob, you were more or less, the prince of the time.
And when was this? Which year?
Oh, I presume we're going back to just the late 60s, early 70s.
Okay.
So 1970, 1972, thereabouts. So, yeah, it was a difficult journey. Of course, when you sort of grew out of being a paper round and all that, and in Glasgow, the only jobs that were going here was restaurants and takeaways.
Okay.
So I managed to secure, and I say secure, why? Because it was difficult to even get a job as a dishwasher. There were so many people that were willing to do a job.
Seriously?
Yeah, well, that's the way it was when you were that time. And so you entered the field of washing dishes, which so imagine you've got your hands in hot water all the time, your back is sort of crouched and bent, and as you finish your dishes, you couldn't straighten up your back. So I did that for a period of time, and the most interesting thing after that was, Vinil, that when I'd been quick to wash the dishes, I was trying to show off that I was good at my job and I'd done everything properly. And the next thing was the chef would say, well, don't sit by there doing nothing. Cut some onions, peel some onions.
Oh, that is that is normal.
Yeah. Well, as a beginner, I didn't want to say I don't know how to do this, and so you imagine at a tender age you're cutting onions and you accidentally cut your finger or your thumb, but you wouldn't tell anybody because then you would become an inexperienced person. You might not be able to keep that job on.
Wow.
So imagine you're trying to cut an onion, holding your thumb, you cut thumb at the same time
while weeping,
while your eyes are watering.
Yeah.
And you did that. So yeah. Days have changed from what it was now, what it is now to what it was then. So we did that for a number of period of time, and then, of course, you came good at it, peeled the onions, washed the dishes. Then they asked you to make dough out of flour, which again was a new thing altogether.
So how long did you work in the restaurants, and then what made you decide pursuing accountancy?
Well, I think while working in a restaurant, they came up to being a waiter. I went to, in those days, there was a shop called C&A's. I went there to buy a pair of black trousers. That's what waiters wore at the time.
Okay.
And when I went in there and I asked the lady, could you direct me to the black pair of trousers? And she pointed her finger over. And I went over there and looked at it and I said, hold on, this is wrong. And she said, I'm looking for a pair of black trousers, bell bottom, which we used to call flares in those days. And she said, well, we've not had them in for 2 years. That's when I realised that working in a restaurant, fashion had just passed away and I didn't even know about it.
Okay.
And that's when I decided I'm going back to further education.
Okay.
I'm not going to work in a restaurant and let my life pass like this. And I went back onto further education to study business studies.
Okay.
And from there sort of developed. And I actually wanted to go on to university to study law. But in those times, you had to have a foreign language, which I didn't have. And Urdu or Punjabi or Hindi was not considered as a foreign language at the time.
Okay.
Your foreign language meant your Dutch, German, and your French. So rather than
to study law, you need to know.
You need to have a foreign language.
Yeah.
You need to have an O level or a higher in a foreign language at that time. But now, I suppose not so much now. But then rather than waste a year, I asked my course tutor what else I can do. He said, well, there's some spaces available in accountancy. And I took that.
Okay.
And the rest, you can say, is all history. So I just went from there. But I remember one of my very first clients who came to me and he said, would you mind doing some work for me? And I did some work over the weekend,
Okay.
And when he came to collect his assignment, he said, how much is that? And I sort of, with a croaked throat, I said, £500. And he put the £500 in my hand. And I thought, wow, that was easy. or working over a weekend and having £500. So that just led me to go on to accountancy. And yes, there have been many £500 that came in and gone, but the real liking is that you meet different people every day. It's a
Okay.
different business, different scenario.
Okay.
You're advising different people to do different things. And you asked me, what can I say to the young generation, the next generation, of what and how should they do? And I think, and I say this, that collect as much knowledge as you can,
Yes.
but don't just collect the knowledge, execute that knowledge.
Exactly.
Execute that knowledge and take any opportunity that comes your way. Don't sit back and say,
Okay.
I have to wait for this to that to happen.
Yep.
Sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes you jump on a bus, it's not going your direction. It may take you to another direction. But as long as you have the knowledge and the execution facility, it's like a map. You can always come back.
I was reading an article about activists. There are a lot of people who are progressively being activists, but the execution is not right. So the ground reality is 1% of what they want to achieve. So you're right. Execution has to be right. Not just getting the knowledge. You have to be executing it properly.
Oh yeah, that's most would definitely. If you see that in business and everything, it's all very well reading something and taking that in. That's your knowledge, but you've got to take that knowledge and use it for some purpose.
Yeah.
And that purpose has to be whether it's monetary or whether it's just for your own benefit, but it has to go forward. And I believe the element of having knowledge and executing it properly, that knowledge will lead you onto an opportunity, which will obviously lead you onto
Okay.
success.
Okay. Now, I have spoken to so many CEOs, and every CEO has some trigger in their life which makes them what they are today. For example, I was speaking to one of a very successful person, and I asked him, what was your trigger? And he told that when he was a young kid, his father was really sick, and he realized that he has to be man of the family, and he then started working really hard. So what is your trigger? What was your trigger? Obviously there must be some trigger.
Well, to be honest with you, Vinil, I started my business way back in the 90s. And after having worked for 7 years, I decided to throw the towel in. I didn't want to be an accountant anymore. Why? Because it didn't pay. It didn't pay. Could you
Okay.
imagine you're doing all this work? Remember I told you got your £500 in your hand?
Okay.
Well, not everybody gave you £500.
Okay.
Somebody gave you a promise to pay you £500.
Okay.
And those promises never executed.
Yeah, it does happen.
Yeah, it doesn't happen.
Yeah.
So I then joined the Glasgow Chamber of Commerce. This is 1997. And I quickly learned, going on a program called the Dale Carnegie programs, that being an accountant and being a businessman were two different things. When I had confused them, I thought being an accountant was a businessman. No, they're two different things altogether. An accountant can only tell you your profit or loss you've made, while the businessman tells you how much profit he's going to make and when. So again, seeking more knowledge in the element of management, etc., and reading all the Dale Carnegie books and everything, I realized in 1997 that I had been doing it wrong. So I recorrected myself, put myself onto a direction with the knowledge, and then executed that knowledge. And within a period of 4 years, from 1997 to 2001, I started going a little bit better. And here we are at 2023, some 20 odd years. And yeah, Glasgow's been good to me. Glasgow has blessed me. And I've really enjoyed it. And I'm still enjoying it. And my message to the next generation would be that never give up. Never give up on thinking this isn't going to work for me. Like I did way back in 1997, I thought this wasn't going to work for me. It's just that whatever job I was doing, I wasn't doing it properly. I wasn't executing it properly.
Was there a very low point in your life where you thought, let's give up and just go back to some job or something?
I did. In 1997, I thought I'd rather go back to a restaurant where the average salary at that time, wage, was £200 a week.
Why was it?
It was easier. It was easier to go into a job at morning, come back at
Exactly.
night, and you don't have to work very hard. You don't have to think very hard, and you've got £200. Could you imagine if you're in business and you're working away, you're working hard, and you've got all these invoices to collect in, and sometimes the invoices don't materialize, And very soon you realized that doing work was one thing, collecting the payment is another thing, and hanging on to those clients in a very positive way is a different
Okay.
thing. So all the day you're revolving. You're revolving every day for a new way of doing things.
Okay.
And no each day is the same. It always just differs all the day. And I think whoever is in business out there will realize that you can't.
But what exactly happened when you felt really low and decided to almost give up? What exactly happened? Was it clients not paying up?
I think that was the ultimate thing, that the clients didn't pay up. The work was there, the clients don't pay up, and then it not only depresses you, but you feel regretful that why you're in this
So
business.
how did you come out of that?
I joined the Glasgow Chamber of Commerce, and I realized by going on their programs that there's an accountant and there's a businessman. You can only be good if you're an accountant and a businessman, combining those both skills together,
Okay.
and then taking the way forward. And I say, the nice example I can give this to you is, Vinil, I know you like cars as well, just as I do, and you everybody can drive a car. This was
Not my wife.
Okay. And this is a friend of mine in Birmingham who said this to me, Harun. And he said, everybody can drive a car, but there's only certain people who get onto the Formula One racetrack. And that's when I realized, that the business is that way. Everybody does business, but it's only certain people who excel. And those people who excel are the people who take the opportunity, take on the risks and everything, calculate the risk,
The extra
and go.
the extra RPM.
Yes.
The extra RPM.
Yes. So you've got, I think, whichever business you're in, you've got to do that. And I think business is like being on a racetrack where you're trying to look for an opportunity to get ahead from one to the other to win. You can't just keep pushing a pedal, just driving. You've got to steer at the right time. You've got to overtake at the right time. And business is such like that as well.
There are normal accountants, there are good accountants, and there are great accountants. What's the difference between a good accountant and a great accountant?
I don't think there's anything wrong with the profession itself. I think all accountants are great. I think they all are. I just think that some just do not realize their potential.
Okay.
They just don't realize the potential. And I think that's just not accountants, Vinil. That goes the whole spectrum.
Yeah.
The whole spectrum of people being in business, whatever business they're in, they've got to look at their business in such a way that you're not only here tomorrow, but you're going to be here next as well. You've got to reinvent yourself every day.
Every day, exactly.
Whichever business you're in.
Exactly.
I was watching a sitcom the other day, and he said, businesses come and go, and actors come and go. And in that sitcom, he said, well, look at that actor Gandhi. He only made one film and never came back again. Obviously, he was talking about Ben Kingsley, but that's a perception that some people have, that, people in movies, that you can be a tragedy actor, a comedy actor. And I suppose in many ways, being a businessman is the same thing, that whether I'm an accountant or a businessman or whatever, a manufacturer, that you've got to reinvent yourself every day. Imagine, people have mobile phones nowadays,
Yeah.
and the mobile phone comes out and people go out and buy a phone for £1,000. That's already old. Because the people who are making that phone, they're already working on a new system.
Yeah.
Computers are the same, cars are the same, every bit of technology is the same. You and I sitting here is a part of that technology,
Yeah.
where people used to maybe record and sound, do it differently.
Yeah.
And as long as in any business that you're doing, and this is a big message to audience out there, whatever business you're doing, try and tweak it a little bit. Try and make it better a little bit than yesterday.
Keep catching up with times.
Yeah. That's all you can do.
Yeah.
And somewhere along the line, you will find that all the I's and the T's are dotted and crossed, and it does well. If you look at, I've still got in my house a camera with a spool in it, where now you've got these all integrated, digital cameras and everything, and life goes on such way. In fact, yesterday, I drove one of my classic cars, Morris Oxford.
Okay.
And I drove that on the motorway. Do you know, Vinil, it was so difficult to drive that car, because not only was I driving, it had no power steering, it was raining, inside the car was cold and everything. So you're trying to drive it all away and everything. Yeah. And yet when I'm driving my other car today, the road felt like a field. I was driving
You get
nice and softly.
connected.
Yeah, and whereas in a classic car, you've got to keep your eyes all over the place, the
Yeah.
speedometer, and people around you. And I suppose in certain ways, business is like that you've got to keep your eyes on everything that you're doing, and at any moment, if something new is coming out, you've got to look at that, see how that's going to affect and adapt onto your business. So the element of education, execution, and opportunity are all there. You've just got to be able to grasp it.
What do you think? How AI is gonna affect accountancy? Everybody is talking about AI.
Yeah, in reality, I'm not that far ahead, but I think there will come a time with the AI and everything that accountants won't be needed. You know, they won't be needed. All the programs are self-explanatory. They're easy to maneuver. In fact, you know, with AI, I was reading an article not so long ago that there could be a doctor in India who could perform an operation here in Glasgow without even being here.
It's already there.
Yeah, it's already there.
It's already there.
So this is what's going to happen with the accountancy as well.
Yeah.
That people don't have to be there. You know, the programs itself all works fine. Look at the element before. You know, when you want to buy some food or something, you'd actually have to go out and buy it. And I remember around about the housing schemes in Glasgow, where there's no shops, you had mobile grocer vans who used to come like an ice cream van, come around the area and sell stuff. And now you don't have to sell; you just order it, and the local delivery vehicles.
And
you know,
in future, it'll just be delivered by drones or something.
yeah, well, that's where it's coming just now. You know, that's just the reality of it. And I think maybe the next step is, rather than being food delivered by a drone, why not take the hungry person by drone into the restaurant and do it that way to give him that actual feeling, you know, rather than eating at home. To, you know, although we're sitting here and we're sort of pondering over it, but that may happen also. That may happen. People want that feeling. People want that feeling of being in a restaurant and such like, you know, and I suppose in a certain ways, that's where artificial intelligence is going.
I think AI, the only thing which AI cannot replace is conversation like this.
Well, I don't agree with you there, Vinil. We are saying that. We are saying that now.
Would AI talk to you like the way we are talking to each other?
Oh, yes. I don't know if you watch.
I mean, you can do it on a chat box, but not face to face physically.
No, the technology that we have now, that the AI, the robots and everything, they are able to maneuver their eyelids and facial expressions just like a human being. The only thing is when you watch that they can't feel this, but I think that simulation is also built in them. You will see very soon, you know, in our lifetime, you will see people passing you by and you won't know they're a robot or not a robot or they're artificial intelligence. No, they will be so much human-like.
You know Sam Altman. You know Sam Altman.
I've heard of him, yes.
Sam Altman is the designer of ChatGPT, OpenAI, whatever. And he was sacked by the board a couple of weeks ago. And then all his staff rebelled against that decision. And he was rehired back after the weekend. And one of the comments I saw in the blogs or whatever, that Sam Altman is having sex with AI.
well, that's just part of the group. But I think it can be done. I think it can be done. Do you know, if we can see, you know what Hollywood is doing right now with the films they're making and everything, it's not just all stunt. It's artificial is there as well.
Yeah.
But I think that exists everywhere. And believe you me, I think there will come a time when people like you and I are sitting here that artificial intelligence can do this no problem. The blinking of an eye, the eye contact, there will be simulations of feeling in them as well. And
how long do you think it'll take for AI to take over accountancy? How many years?
It's taken over already.
Already,
it's already taken over. You know, the only there are programs out there. You scan a document, it's all there, saved in there, calculates your tax and everything. In fact, there are programs out there that actually tells you how you can pay less tax by doing different strategies and everything. So that's already there. It's just how people are using it. But when you're saying how long, it's already there. You know, years ago, you had to go to a bank to check your balance. Now it's all online.
Yes.
If somebody pays you money, it's instant. If you're paying somebody else, it's instant as well.
Okay.
You know, you had to wait on a bus and you had to buy a ticket. Now you don't have to. It's all tap and go, as they say. You know, coffees are made. In fact, you know, very soon, I don't think so, labor is so much going to be required. Machinery is going to be doing everything. Your coffee, whatever, you just talk and they say, and it'll be done, you know, just that way.
Yeah.
The interaction of humans is going to be very, very limited. But the simulation and the feelings that a robot can feel will come in. And I think when you say how long, I think you and I will see it in our lifetime. And it's a wee bit, you know,
Scary.
well, yes, any new technology is always scary. When you sit behind a wheel of a car, it's scary. You know, when you start driving faster, a little bit faster, it becomes an enjoyment, becomes a pleasure, and you get used to it. And I suppose everything is like that. But I think in some ways, you know, the jobs that certain people perform cannot and will not be taken over by AI. It's just the way that is. You know, the love and affection a mother will show to a child. You know, the you and I having a handshake will mean a lot. You and I having eye contact will mean a lot. But the elements and productions of AI will go a long way now. Do you know, interestingly, on my keyboard in my computer, I don't need to type anything. It's got voice recognition, which means that I can easily talk and it'll just type everything there.
Yeah.
And if there's a correction, it does automatically, it just corrects as well.
Okay.
So these things, if you spoke about 10, 20 years ago, they would have been, oh, maybe, yes, no, but it's happened. And I think it'll happen more and more. Do you know, years ago, in order for you to count your blood pressure or your sugar in your blood, you had to do a test and everything and all that.
Exactly.
Now it's just
I have a tracker and my
and it's just there.
is there.
Yeah, and it tells you everything there and then of what's happening to your body. You know, as you're walking along. So yeah, you know, it's amazing. I don't know if you've seen. You know, you get these trackers on cars. They're very, very small. You can put a tracker in your car and everybody can monitor where you are. But now wives are doing some very, very small trackers on gentlemen's shoes to know where they are and what they're doing.
I think my wife has put too many trackers.
So that's technology. So when you say where it will go, I think it will go a lot further. Do you know, when I was growing up and you used to watch these James Bond movies with Sean Connery in them and everything, and you to see all this happening and all that happening, well, we can see it in our eyes now.
Yeah,
it's all happening now. It's all.
It's going crazy. It's going crazy.
Well, I think when you use the word crazy, when you use the word crazy, it's something that we don't understand at this moment. But when you do understand it, it becomes an element in itself and benefit. You look at it this way. Years ago, if people wanted to do a little bit of exercise, they used to go out and walk. They used to go out and work, and they used to go out for a walk. Now everybody has to join the gym to keep fit.
A lot of media hype, myths, misinformation, both in India and Pakistan. I'm surprised what you just told me that somebody from Punjab Muslim had to change his name to a Punjabi name to
stay alive. To stay alive.
And this not many people know in India.
No, I think
we think it was other way around. In India, this is a misconception. It's other way around, where Hindus had to change their names in Muslim names to survive in Pakistan.
But let me share something else with you, Vinil.
Yeah.
When you say this is unheard of, I think people know about this, but people kept quiet. You know, just recently, the Kartarpur corridor is open. That means the Sikhs can come into Pakistan and visit the birthplace of Baba Guru
By the
Nanak.
way, Mr. Imran Khan is Sir's client. Okay, move on.
So we've got this corridor, and I read recently that a family from India came to the Kartarpur corridor, and they visited the Baba Guru Nanak Gurdwara. And while they were sitting there, the Pakistanis who were helping them to eat food, travel about, and they started talking and everything. And people started talking, where are you from in Punjab? And they started talking, that I'm from such and such a place. They said, yes. And then one of the ladies said, yes, I was a Muslim, and I was married to a Muslim, but when the partition happened, everybody just went their own way. And the lady, at a young age, found herself alone in Punjab. Her family had disappeared, don't know where they are. So she ended up being taken in by a Sikh family. And as she grew up, she said that the Sikh family took her and she married a Sikh man. But she said, but during this time of the partition, she was already married to a Muslim man. She was already married to a Muslim man with 3 children, and she don't know where they are, whatever. So because she could not come to Pakistan and not know, she married somebody there. And when the people in Pakistan asked her which village was she from, does she remember her husband's name, they started talking. And for somehow, by the grace of God, they managed to find the person, her husband, the Muslim husband, and the 3 children.
Wow.
They met up at the Kartarpur corridor, and I'm sure they cried a lot, they hugged a lot, they loved a lot.
Wow.
And she met her sons after so many years. The husband met his wife after so many years. But when you come to a complex situation like that, what do? The lady returned back to India because now that was her home. The Sikh was her husband.
There is so much of history lost with the partition. For example, you have Bihari chapli kebab, but where is Bihar? Do you know where is Bihar?
Bihar is the other side of India, yeah.
Bihar is where I come from.
All right, okay.
And a lot of Muslim immigrants went to Karachi. And they started making chapli kebab there. And that's why...
Well, it's still, Vinil, it's still there. My city of Karachi, if you go to an area called Bandar Road, in Eidgah, and they have a lot of restaurants there, and they're all called like Delhi Muslim Sweet House. They have said, so the tradition...
Where is this?
This is Pakistan, in Karachi.
Wow.
They will have a shop, their sweet shop, and it will say their Delhi Muslim Sweet House, because whoever was the halwai, the baker he was from India and he came over here. And it's still, but when you...
Another example is your mangoes. We have Alfonso.
Yeah.
And you have Anwar Atoll.
Yes. But to share with you,
but the DNA is same of these two mangoes.
Yes. But you must appreciate, Vinil, if you know the name Anwar Atoll, and you must have eaten the Anwar Atoll,
and
you do know that the Anwar Atoll is a far superior mango than the Alfonso. The Alfonso is nice.
Okay, you are my guest. You are my guest. I agree to it. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So
Hamdard.
Yes, Hamdard. Yes.
Hamdard is both in India as well as Pakistan.
There are a lot of, there are areas in Pakistan when I went there, and I remember I want to get a certain area in Pakistan, and they said, it's near Guru Mandir. And I said, what Mandir? They said, I said, well, why do you call it a Mandir? He said, well, that's the area, it was already known as that. Do you know the very famous hospital, Sir Gangaram, is still in Pakistan, which was initiated by Gangaram there. So there's a very many things there are not only similar, but people have left behind and did things. But it's unfortunate.
Maybe your mango is good. Our cricket team is better.
Perhaps. Only this year. Yeah. And I think there's so much history that we can recollect on and learn from it. Recently, just now, I've started a new book, and I think I don't know if I mentioned it last time.
You read a lot of books?
Yes.
Do you recommend any books for budding entrepreneurs? A must-read book?
I think there's a very famous book by Napoleon Hill.
Sorry?
Napoleon Hill.
And
it's called Think and How to Grow Rich.
Think and
How to Grow Rich.
Okay.
Yeah, I've got you thinking now, haven't I? So this book has been about for a number of years, and I, read it every year.
For our audience, that's a recommendation. Think and
Grow Rich.
How to Grow Rich
Yeah, Think and
by
Grow Rich.
Napoleon Hill.
Napoleon Hill. It's
Okay.
a very fantastic book. It's been out for ages. And there are many other books that have came out since then that you read and you take over. And each book, like each chapter, it teaches you something new. And the advancement of knowledge, that's very good to follow.
Mm-hmm.
I see people, they've got their earphones on and they're listening to articles such as
Okay.
that. And on average, if you, who are the listeners for this one, if you read one chapter a day, and one chapter only takes you about 30 minutes.
Okay.
And you read 30 chapters in a month, you can easily read 2 books. Easily.
Okay. And when did you read this book? Was it?
Oh, I've been reading this book since 1997.
Okay. That probably.
And I read it every year because you come
You,
back
read it,
and
you keep reading it
Oh,
again
yes,
and again.
yes.
Yeah,
yes.
because you keep forgetting things.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
I suppose with life experience,
Yeah.
whatever you read comes to you in a different way.
Yeah.
If
You understand it differently different times.
Yeah, I'm very fond of an Indian actor called Raj Kapoor, the
Okay.
late Raj Kapoor.
Okay.
And every time you watched his films, when you were 10, that gave you a different message. Same film. And when you're a different age, it gives you. And, Raj Kapoor had this wonderful ability to take the social evil and put it onto a screen and show you how things are. In one of the movies, he said, I'm a graduate. I'm very honest. Where can I get a job? And one of the guys replied to him, no job for you. He said, why? I'm a graduate. I'm working hard. I'm honest. He said, there's no job for people who are graduates, who are honest and hardworking. And isn't it so true that you're actually right? There isn't any job. The element now is that you have to be strange, cunning, and evil to get a job. And it seems that way. But like I said, if you read a book and you go back and read it again, because of your life experiences, it will give you a new message.
Different
and that's
message.
what a book does. It gives you a new message to think again.
Yeah, I understand. For example, my daughter reads a book, she will have a different understanding rather than me reading the same book. I'll have different.
Different experiences.
Yeah.
So, highly recommended. And I think, any book on management or whatever attracts you to know about,
Okay.
it's a must. If you're in business and you want to develop yourself, get into the habit of accumulating knowledge, at least, one book a month, at least.
Okay. Or podcast.
Or, I think when I'll share this with you, when people, when I watch a podcast, I'm already visioning what's in front of me. When I read a book, I have to make that vision in my head. And I make up my own film in my head. So that's what happens to me. But
Okay.
for various people, it's different. People sometimes don't want to read, but I tend to find that when you're reading, you're building up a new picture in your head of how it is. Sometimes, if I'm sitting behind my desk and working away, I would just think of somebody way back in the past, how would he have done this? How would he have dealt with this problem? And you speak to your subconsciousness and you
Okay.
develop new ideas. So the element of accumulating knowledge is very, very important.
Do you watch Bollywood movies?
Yes, very much.
Okay. Have you watched anything lately?
Not recently because I've been reading books, but I do watch the odd trailer and the post about it and everything. I think, before you made the time available
Okay.
to watch a Bollywood 3-hour movie. You sat there with your family.
Okay.
Now, most of the Bollywood movies, although they're good, but you really can't watch them sitting with your family. You don't know what's going to happen next because now films don't just have drama in it.
Okay.
They don't have the social evil in it. The films now have, what everybody wants. They want blood. They want terror. They want knives.
Masala.
They want,
Masala.
yeah. Which I personally think is wrong. I don't think that's entertainment in anywhere for them. But that's what sells out there. People want more and more.
Okay. Regarding future businesses, there are future businesses like AI, podcast, and the other businesses, space business, satellites and stuff. So, what do you think is going to be for the space industry and accountancy? Do you have any insight on space engineering?
No, I'm not. Well, I'm not an engineer anymore. Originally, engineering was, I used to work in government shipbuilders.
Do you think there is any other industry which will be futuristic apart from these three?
I think we have to consider the leisure industry. I think the leisure industry is going to be there. Very soon, with the advent of technology, there's not going to be so many jobs going, are there? Like I said earlier, there won't be a requirement for an accountant. People will do business in a different way. Accountants won't be needed. So there's going to be a lot of, I presume, there's going to be a lot of time on people's hand to what they're going to do.
Okay.
And I think that's where the leisure comes in. That your gymnasiums or whatever, even going to the libraries will become a leisure.
Holidays.
Yeah, yes, in a situation like that. So I think the leisure industry is going to expand very much. People.
Because
nowadays,
most of the stuff will be done by robots, AI.
Yeah. People used to go on holiday maybe once a year. Now people are going to holiday 3-4 times a year. It's easily available. And I don't know if there's going to come a time where, you don't need to go on holiday. The holiday will come to you in whatever form.
A metaverse.
Yeah.
Metaverse.
So something like that. So it's dangerous. It's exciting. It's taking you into a world that you may not see. It's funny just now.
If you rewind 30, 40, 50 years back, do you think your life is better now or 50 years before?
The honest answer, it was better then.
Even I feel that way.
Yeah, it was better then. Why? Because we socialized more. We met people more. We understand people more. We visited our friends, relatives more.
Exactly.
We cared about each other more, which is all gone.
It's gone.
Yeah.
All gone.
So, and that's not just here. That's all over the world. Although we have a phone we can pick up, we have minutes, we have WhatsApp, we have free time, we can phone and talk to anybody. But everybody's busy.
But this face to face.
Yeah, it doesn't happen. And I think that's what is wrong. Remember I said to you at the beginning, a handshake, an embrace. If that doesn't happen, you don't get that feeling anymore. Sometimes it's nice not just to talk to a person on the phone, but actually to see them, to meet up with them. And I think that's important. I think that's very nice to do, which doesn't happen. If we didn't meet on a regular basis, how would we know where one another are? We can't all just keep sending messages. How are you? I am well, I'm fine, and that's the end of it. I think there's a lot more.
There are a lot of times when I have to clarify something with you, phone calls or WhatsApp messages doesn't work. I have to meet you face to face and converse.
I think everybody has to do that. I think the whole point of being a human is to meet another human. It's not there to meet robots or anything like that. Sometimes when a car broke down, you phoned the Automobile Association. They had a look at your car and they tried to fix it for you there and then. Now when a car breaks down, they don't have a look at your car. They've got these systems. They plug in, they look at the computer and tell you what's wrong with it and what things to go through. And if they can't fix it, which 9 times out of 10 happens, they say we'll have to go back to the workshop.
Okay.
So those elements of hands-on are all away now. It's like, you remember years ago when they said, you had a packet, you boil it for 5 minutes, and your lunch and dinner is already. Well, I think to a certain extent that's happening now. We find in the Asian households, a lot of people don't want to cook their own thing.
We have pizza vending machines.
Yeah. So that's happening as well. So in a way, there's excitement there, but it's dangerous as well when you look at how people are going to be and everything. I suppose with all the knowledge and everything we have, look at hospitals, they're all full. People have got all sorts of problems because the diet wasn't right, the exercise wasn't right, their working acumen wasn't right.
How do you keep fit as a CEO? What do you do?
Within my office, I walk a lot. I try to go for the odd swim and all that. When you say, how do you keep fit? I think to a certain age you get to, then you realize you can't keep fit. I think it's...
I know you used to do a lot of gym and stuff before.
But I think more than that, you've got to find time to relax. You've got to find time to go away from the office. And even like... You're in my office, you're watching TV or whatever, listen to a podcast or whatever it may be. You've got to find time to get away from your daily grind.
Do you cry?
Do
you cry?
Do I cry? Yes.
Do you cry alone?
Yes, I do not cry in front of anybody.
Yeah, but do you cry alone? Yeah.
Yes.
Because I was listening to somebody and some doctor, and he said people only talk about being positive, being positive, being positive, but instead of that, sometimes men need to cry because crying is the biggest medicine. Crying is a medicine.
I don't know if it's a medicine word, but certainly I don't know if it even helps you. But you see, people who are depressed, they just have a smile on their face.
The people who are depressed laugh the most.
Yeah, but see, they laugh. They laugh not because they're happy. They laugh because they want to hide their depression. That's what happens.
Yeah.
They're just behind that. And sometimes when you have active face-to-face conversations, you find out that person's really hurt inside. You know, and how do you get at that? How do you help those people? You know, and that's where the element of AI just can't go away. You know, nowadays you go to doctors and you tell them you're depressed, they give you certain tablets and that's it.
No.
But you don't know what the real cause of the depression is. You know, so the human interaction is very, very important.
Exactly.
It's very, very important.
So that was Mr. Javed, successful entrepreneur, very famous person in Scotland. And thank you for coming to our show,
Pleasure.
the Rollover Show. And it's been a wonderful conversation with you. And I hope that new entrepreneurs, accountants have learned quite a few lessons from this conversation. And stay tuned. A lot of people watch this, but they don't follow us or subscribe to us. Please subscribe, follow us so that we get more guests like this. I'm hoping to bring more guests, successful entrepreneurs, celebrities. That's what you will find in this show. And thank you very much for coming in here, sir. And thank you for your time.
Thank you for the opportunity, Vinil. Excellent.
Thank you. See you next time.